Hey, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I'm getting some dropped frames. I'm not quite sure why, so... My camera is not focused right. It's just one of those nights where everything's gonna break. That's how it's gonna be. Hello, Demeron. How are you? Have the headaches subsided? If you want to pop on voice, I'm happy to talk with you that way if you'd rather talk via voice or chat. It's up to you. However you want to do it. So so just type Discord. You did the exclamation Discord? Let me see. And you can play with the other commands too, but the Discord one is the connect one, so you feel free to join me on Discord. I think if you do Discord, it'll send you a link for getting on the Discord channel, and I think I'm in the right channel. It should pop you directly into. Not sure why the drop frames keep coming up, but whatever. No big. So you had mentioned... Let me see if I can find something. I'll be honest, I didn't have a lot of opportunities to deal with, to look up anything today at work. It got like super busy. It just exploded on me, so I apologize in advance. I added some new fun commands today, by the way, guys. If we get 1,000 bits, it gives a fun audio command that Takei did for me. So check it out. Let me see if I'll post it up. Let me see if it works. All right, so I don't know where the drop frames are coming out. Can you hear me okay? Demeron, is it working okay for you? I can't tell. It looks like I'm lighting up, so I'm assuming it's working all right. You probably have to mute the stream voice so you can join me here and talk without the repetition. Let me know when it starts working. If your push to talk key enabled, or maybe if you just have an open mic, that's fine too. Just make sure your voice is loud enough. I wonder if I have just stuff downloaded in the background here. So Demeron, I'm not sure if you can hear me or not, but oh wait, how's that? Is that better? Nope, you're muted. Why are you muted? Shouldn't be muted. 1 second. It might be on my end. Let me see if I can change it. It looks like you're muted for some reason. Wait, there you go. Now you're not muted. You got a mute icon next to your name. And there are no limitations on this channel, so let me edit the channel. Permissions.
Everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you fine now.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, cool. I'm glad it worked.
Well, I do have some good news.
Cool, what's that?
It's not back, but I was able to taste a little bit of the essence of something I ate, and so that's a good sign that it'll improve.
Good for you. When that happened today after you talked to me?
Yeah, it happened late this evening, yeah.
Wow. What did that feel like?
Oh, it was so exciting. I took most of the day to just kind of relax and breathe and enjoy and take things slow, and took the little successes as they came, and so far so good.
Good for you, man. That's awesome. I was gonna say that's you know, when you're working with brain-related injuries, oftentimes it just takes a long time, and if it's only been 10 days, it just takes a while for the brain to recover enough to actually have some sensation again, the right stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, it's been a journey for me because this isn't my first stroke. I started having it about 5 years ago,
Oh wow, got it. Yeah.
and so now it's a matter of just they were a lot scarier when it first started happening, but I'm not saying I'm getting used to it, but I don't I try to not let myself get too overly excited when things don't quite go the way they should.
Yeah, and I imagine with losing the ability to taste everything, and that's a recent
Yeah,
addition.
that one was new. I never had that before, and because I like when I was in college, I played a lot of rugby, and 2015 I had a really bad case of whiplash, and it seemed to add just more scar tissue on the brainstem concussion scar tissue that I had from the when I was like 21, 22. So just kind of take things one day at a time. And biggest thing, if anyone's listening, the best advice is to avoid stress at all possible.
So with that, did you end up quitting work, or how did you go about avoiding stress?
I reached the point at that time in my life, I reassessed everything and I realized that I had invested wisely enough that I could just decide I'm done. I'm just going to enjoy myself and live my best life and just take it easy. I just downsized a lot of my bills, got everything. I've always been pretty good about not living paycheck by paycheck, but I plan a lot ahead and made some good investments, and it's paying off now.
Nice. So you were able to streamline your life a lot, minimize everything, get to
Yes.
the point where you can just do it all on your
Yeah.
own. That's awesome.
The hardest thing for me to over time, and I think I'm still coming to grips with it, but that there's such thing as good stress, which is just as dangerous as bad stress. So getting overly excited about anything can trigger an episode.
Thanks, Rogue.
So
Yeah, so I mean, any strokes are caused by. Maybe you can tell me, what are strokes caused by?
well, in my case, I don't have any cardiovascular issues. All of mine are anxiety driven, and what happens is I'll start to feel anxious about whatever it is that I'm doing. And a lot of times I don't realize it's happening until it's almost too late. Then I start focusing on the symptoms and start spiraling out of control because, first you're having anxiety issues about something, and then you start having anxiety issues about that plus your anxiety, and it becomes a snowball effect, and it ends up cascading into an event. And I know it's not better than a stroke, but usually it causes me to black out. I'll just have uncontrolled blackouts. I have them once every 2 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
And doctors can't figure out why. Like I said, there's nothing wrong. There's no brain tumors. There's nothing other than stress. And it'll cause my blood pressure to shoot up and won't go back down. And I don't have any high blood pressure issues, no vascular problems, no clots, no nothing like that.
So it's they scanned your brain and determined that it's actually a stroke. It's not a seizure.
Yeah. I've never had seizures, and that was one of the big things. I even had one of those 24-hour monitoring devices that they kept on me for a couple of weeks, just to kind of see if I was throwing any events, and nothing. It was just I've just had irregular heart activity and a sudden burst of blood pressure where my blood pressure would shoot up, like 170 over 110, and my pulse. I've always had a naturally high pulse, but my pulse would reach upwards almost 200. And you know, that's just not good for the body.
No, yeah, no way, man.
So here we are. But now, one of the things that I did to help cope with my stress was find an outlet, which ended up becoming Shroud of the Avatar.
Good for you.
And I used to be a dev. I used to program and do a lot of code work and that kind of stuff. It used to bring me peace and joy, and now it just brings me irritation, so I don't do it anymore.
You either got into that zen or you were throwing things at your monitor.
Yeah. And I used to love PvP and first-person shooters, and everything was great. And then about, you know, like I said, 5 years ago, I ended up having bad problems. And in the meantime, I got diagnosed with diabetes.
Wow.
And literally the day that I went to the doctor to find out my test results to find out I was positive for diabetes, I stepped on a screw.
So did you get tetanus something too?
No, the screw that went through my shoe pushed some of the material from the sole of my shoe into my bone. And that shoe was made in a third world country where the water conditions aren't great, and basically there was some embedded stuff in my shoe that ended up causing me to almost have a near fatal
sepsis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting diagnosed with osteomyelitis after that, because the same foot has had surgery on it like 4 times in the past 5 years. And at one time I was so bad off that I was actually taking 3 intravenous antibiotics daily at home.
Yep.
And I ended up, long story short, basically not being able to leave the house or drive a car for, you know, like 2 years. And slowly over time, I just get worse. And so I was angry about the debilitation. I was angry about the diabetes.
The loss of ability, the loss of potential. Yeah.
And then that just only made things worse. And then I realized that I could decide to be angry or decide to just live the best life I could from day to day. And that was a choice I had to make. And that's what I'm doing. But
nice.
Oddly enough, I know it sounds stupid, and I'm sure I'll catch some razzing from a lot of people, but I was on a quest to get something done, and I was getting frustrated because there was no more map, and I was lost, and I was trying to find out what I needed to do to complete the quest, and I should have just walked away, didn't. I was having too much fun, and I got too involved and ended up psyching myself. Caused the episode about 10 days ago.
So your 10 days ago was the last one you had?
Yeah. And then what happened is basically I had a little bit of palsy in the front of my face, where everything from my nostrils to the tip of my chin, and it went back on my tongue, and my roof of my mouth probably about as far back as halfway my tongue. So for the first couple of days I couldn't taste anything, and then about a week ago I got a little bit back, but the only ones that worked were the bitter taste buds.
No fun,
which is not fun. That's horrible.
Because did everything start tasting like the bitter?
Everything tasted like dirt. Everything tasted, it was weird because all I could focus on was the textures of food, and that was not good. And yeah, it's just things you take for granted that you don't think about daily is, you know, the ability to taste food. That was
That's one thing for sure. Yeah,
I wasn't prepared for the loss of that, and so it was really, and like I said, it caused me anxiety, which only made things worse. So got
so
a lot of stress, tension in the neck and shoulders.
Yep. You mentioned one of your coping skills has been to play Shroud.
Yes.
What else have you found? What else do you do? Because we can't be at the computer all the time, so.
Yeah, well, as you know, when you visited here before, Dirty Liquor, is crafting and planting is kind of a zen thing for me.
Oh, that was your place. You did that was an amazing town. I remember now.
Thank you. And so, yeah, doing that is kind of a Zen thing. Or I will focus on raising one of my skills, and that will be my thing for the day. Or find little goals that I can attain. And, if I can't do them, I don't push myself too hard for obvious reasons. And, but it's best to just be positive. And it's on days like this week, it's not easy to be positive.
Oh man, I can't imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, my biggest thing is that I need to figure out a better way of managing short-term temporary issues.
So you'd mentioned, I thought you'd said something about like meditation. Did you? Being mindful?
Yeah.
Have you been doing that?
I used to be able to do a lot of meditation, but let's see, best way to put it is, 2 years ago, I was having an anxiety attack because of some health problems I was having, and I was brought into the doctor's ER. I was brought into the ER, and I told them that I'm having an anxiety attack. This is the medications that I take, and if there's any way that they could give me something to calm down. Well, the doctor was trying to give me lorazepam, and I knew that there was a possibility that I might have an adverse reaction to it because we found out my grandmother had an allergic reaction to lorazepam. And the doctor ended up shooting me up with lorazepam anyway, right in front of my friends and family, and they were freaking out, but by then it was too late. They'd already shot me with it, and I ended up having a psychotic break.
I've seen people have that because of that med, but yeah.
And I wasn't in control of myself. I was seeing hallucinations, and I don't even remember doing the actual event. I remember seeing eyeballs with teeth in my wrists, and the next thing I know, I'm waking up in the ER with my wrists spun up because I cut my tendons.
Oh man! So
because I didn't just like slit my wrist, I was sawing it.
Wow! This is in the doctor's office?
This was how I ended up in the hospital, and I had just left the hospital a week before that because they had shot me with lorazepam. Apparently, I found out that they had already given me lorazepam once before, and I thought the doctors were trying to kill me. And I checked myself out of the ER and just sat on the curb waiting for my girlfriend to pick me up. And then within 24 hours is when I had that incident where I ended up basically losing it and cutting my wrists. So as a result, I now have massive damage to my tendons in both wrists. So I couldn't work on the computer I couldn't do anything on the keyboard for a good 2 years. And when I got the stress in the first place, one of the things that I had done previously to cope with stress was I was a published author. And so I used to love to write and get myself into a book and a storyline and enjoy myself. And I haven't been able to write for a while. And when I finally got back to writing, I had finished book 2 and 3, and I was working on the tie-ins when both of my backup hard drives and my main computer got taken out by Hurricane Harvey. So I was stressed out and anxious and depressed over losing 2 novels, 700 pages.
Yeah. You weren't doing cloud backups or anything like that, huh?
See, I've heard horror stories, and I don't trust the cloud. It's not a paranoia thing. I've had some people lose a lot of intellectual properties through the cloud. So I decided that wasn't for me, and I didn't expect a flood event. The place that I had stored my data had never flooded, even in a major flood event in Houston. So it was
a big one.
It seemed like a safe thing, and learned my lesson. But so I've had a lot of setbacks, but I also try to be positive because I have no choice but to be positive.
Now, prior to the wrist incident, had you done anything like that before?
No. Matter of fact, I was always everybody's safety net. Anybody who's ever been in a suicide type position in their past or whatever, I was like one of the first people they called. And I would talk to them. I would drive and I'd sit with them. I would take off days of work to go and be with a person that I thought needed me. So I was the last person when this happened. Everybody was like, "That's not him." So yeah, it was a complete reaction to the psychotic break.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know that that was possible. And that for anybody out there that is thinking about experimenting with drugs, don't do it, because that was a prescription drug given to me, but I wasn't in any way prepared for a full blast of lorazepam.
Yeah, I've seen that happen with elderly people, and they knew that she was allergic, and they ended up giving it to her in psychotic break, and then she died.
Yeah,
it's pretty sad.
So I had thought I'd coped with anything that life might throw at me until I lost my taste buds, and I was just like, oh no.
Take it away, one more thing, no.
It's like
Brutal.
Food was like one of the few joys I had left in life, but and so yeah, it was kind of upsetting. But I'm happy that I see some progress today, because it's been a rough 10 days. It's like I hadn't seen a whole lot of progress and didn't see light at the end of the tunnel with the whole tasting thing.
I was just going to use that example. It's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel, really.
Which goes to prove, if you can just be patient long enough, sometimes things do get better. You're not going to be cured. Whatever's ailing you isn't going to go away. But sometimes even the worst of things can just be a temporary setback.
Mm-hmm. My medical side of me is like, well, what? The doctors can't come up with an answer why this is happening? It seems really weird.
My vertigo, it's ironic, because my father, who was diagnosed with diabetes about 20 years ago, he also had problems with vertigo and palsy in his late years. A lot of people have speculated it may have been from my exposure in the plants when I worked in the petrochemicals field as a chemical designer. And I used to work with chemicals, and it's possible that a lot of it could be related to just hazardous work environments from the past. And I used to work for NASA and do a lot of defense contractor work, so I was in a lot of areas that probably had asbestos in it too. So.
Was that, so you said you're in Houston?
Yes.
There's a lot of folks from the game that are in Houston. I've noticed that in Texas for sure.
Yes. And I will have to say that for those of you that know me, I probably told you this before, but those who don't, the players in this community have been such a godsend to me.
It is by far the best community I've been in for an MMO.
Yeah.
So you're definitely tech savvy. So did you look up any like anxiety related stuff to help you with as far as TBI goes?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just because of the stuff that I found that didn't work for me, but I tried medication and I haven't had really good luck with any medications. And I've tried some things, and I really haven't seen much that's helped me. I used to do a lot of meditation, but I used to study Shaolin, so a lot of my meditation techniques, it's hard for me to really connect with myself like I used to, because of physical pain. So,
Yep. That disconnect is hard when your physical body is crying.
Yeah. And I used to be the kind of person that, if something was bothering me, I'd power through it. Or if I saw that there was something that would help me, I would do it, even if it was painful. So I'm not lazy when it comes to therapy. I'm not lazy when it comes to trying new things. But
Hey, buddy. How you doing, Sheldon?
I've gotten older, and my body's just not 20 anymore, and it just doesn't bounce back.
It's not as easy as it was. So I know that for adults, especially with chronic medical conditions, there are what is it, pain clinics that you can go to that don't focus on the medication side of things, but more the holistic mindfulness type of thing. Have you looked into any of that in your area?
Not yet.
So I know that I worked at a children's hospital, and we had that for kids with like chronic medical conditions, and then we come out and talk about those things. So might be an option. I'm sure that the adult facilities have the same thing. Especially being from Houston, there's got to be a large focus on that, one would think.
Yeah. The hard thing in Houston, and it's probably because I live in a city with 8 million people, is that getting psychiatric care is very difficult because there's just so many people and such a small percentage of psychiatrists willing to take on new patients.
That's a universal thing.
And the ones that are willing to take on new patients really shouldn't be doing what they're doing, because some of them are just... I'm not disregarding anybody in the industry. I'm just basically, there's some that are just all about pill poppers.
Yep.
And then there's some that, they'll see you once and then you never see the psychiatrist again, and they'll pawn you off on a therapist, which is great if you pick the right therapist. And I had one therapist that was absolutely adamant about me quitting games like this because I should ground myself in the real world and not the fake world. And I was trying to explain to them that there's a community here. These are people that share the same like-minded things. It'd be no different than going to a counseling group or joining a club or something like that. And
you're completely right. Yep. Well, it gives people with a disability a home and people that they can talk to, like especially people with agoraphobia or physical ability. It's perfect for that. That was actually one of the reasons why I wanted to do this stream, was specifically for that reason.
Yeah, I was talking about this the other day, discussing you in general. I was like, I actually feel more comfortable talking to you and telling you things than I have any therapist that I've ever met, because you get a large part of my personality.
Because I've been there. I play a lot of the games.
I've been a gamer all my life,
man.
And it was a career for me for like 30 years. So
really, what games did you work on?
I worked on Knights of the Old Republic. I worked on Star Wars Galaxies. Did some minor work for EverQuest 2. And then I worked on a lot of side projects, commission work, and that kind of stuff.
Nice.
But, I did a lot of questing. I was a quest designer for a lot of things. Did you ever play Star Wars Old Republic?
Oh yeah. That was one of my favorite games. The Bounty Hunter or something,
the Bounty Hunter companion.
Yep. I remember you talking about that in somebody's stream once. I'm like, oh really?
Yeah.
It was a cool. It was great content. Uh-oh, don't die.
And I used to do the Dwarven stuff in EQ2. So I loved it. And when I found out that this game was a lot more close to what I like in the old days, I was like, this sounds like something I can get into. And then I found out about them bringing on NPC questing, and as you see, I built quite a large area. I hope to turn it into a quest theme park.
You have an amazing town. So have you been using those quest building skills in your stuff?
And I get a lot of joy and satisfaction setting up small goals for myself, even in decoing. I'm going to set up this house today, or I'm going to set up this basement today, or I'm going to design this dungeon today, or at least a little part of it. And it's really helpful. And a lot of people can't find that joy and zen in the game sometimes, and I say this as a dev for other games, is that a lot of it has to do with expectation. Is that if you're not attaining your goals, then you're not probably setting the right goals for yourself. You've got to set small, attainable goals. Even if they're overall to make a big goal, you do it in small bites.
That's really wise. That's very true. I tell people that a lot, actually.
Nobody eats a 14-ounce steak in one bite. One bite at a time.
Challenge accepted.
Oh, I kill for being able to taste the steak right now.
I bet, man.
But,
I bet.
But I'm positive. I was not this positive 24 hours ago.
What was the taste that you got back today?
I won't say I got a lot of the sweet back, but it seems like a greater percentage of my tongue has shifted forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting some sweet taste buds, very few. A little more of the salt buds, but very few. It's still primarily the bitter. But I was able to catch those subtle notes of sweetness and blend of taste. It's kind of like if somebody were to just take a wonderful meal and then
thank you.
pour half of it out and then fill the other with vegetable oil. That's what it tastes like to me.
Yeah, you wouldn't taste anything but those.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, and then when I eat nothing, I just have that bad taste in my mouth. So it's even worse because you say, well, either don't eat anything and you won't have to worry about it. But yeah, just your general mouth flavors from body fluids, like saliva and mucus and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's really hard. So you got to have something in there to make it taste something else. And I haven't.
For everybody
up
just
until
popping
this
into the
afternoon,
chat,
I haven't been able to replace that taste of.
I'm talking to Lord Demeron. We're talking about his medical condition and stuff. So, yeah, he's the guest on Discord right now.
I was happy. I put a little barbecue sauce on something, and I could taste a little bit of the tanginess of it, a little bit of the vinegary taste of it, and so it was.
I know it's not
fun.
the same, but I was in the service for a short time, and I remember the sensation of finally coming back to feeling carpet between my toes. It's not the same, but I mean, like the deficit of not knowing something for so long that you've expected and appreciated, and now you can't anymore.
Yeah. So for all those out there that thinks your life is horrible, it could be worse.
It certainly can.
And it's not like you're being pessimistic or unrealistic, but it's like okay, if this is what it's going to be like forever, what am I going to do to cope? How am I going to get used to this? And then when it does get better, it's not that you're still wishing it's back to the way it was, but just that little bit extra is kind of like, okay, if this is as good as it gets, at least I got this.
Yes.
So it's tricky and it's hard to look at everything positively, but
And yet you manage, man. That shows a lot of internal strength that you can pull that off.
And it's the community and people like you that have really helped, because I don't feel alone about it. I don't feel like I have no one to talk to. I don't have a big problem with large groups of people giving me judgment, or I can't go out to dinner with them anymore, so I'm just not going to call them. I have people like that in my life, so I'm good.
Yeah. You do you hang out with any of the Shroud players in real life, given that there's so many people from that area there?
I've actually brought a couple of my real life friends into Shroud, so I hang out with them. But I haven't had a chance to really hang out with any of the people locally. Primarily because I have developed agoraphobia, and it's something. It's like, up until the loss of the taste buds, it was one of my primary issues of stress and anxiety is just dealing with being in large crowds of people.
Yeah.
And
hey, pups.
I used to not be that way,
sir.
But it's funny how things shift. It's funny how quickly you are to be upset or agitated by things that used to just be nothing to you.
So with that when your blood pressure gets escalated or whatever it is that causes you to have these strokes, what's the one thing in the moment that you do to stop yourself from hey, this is going to be my trigger? What do you do to recognize that in the moment and stop yourself?
I sit try to get
Houston.
myself to
Houston.
drink water. And if there's anything healthy I can put in my system, I do that. And then I just focus on my breathing, focus on
Mike.
the moment, and try
Appreciate
not
it,
to focus on what's causing me the problems, focus on the positives that are going on. Like my hands hurt all the time, but there's times that I'm like going through something and I realize, okay, your hands don't hurt as bad as they did 2 years ago. Or
Say that one more time, sorry.
I said I try to focus on the things that aren't bad. Like my hands used to hurt so bad that I had to take pain medication daily. And now I can go, at least that's better. Yeah, at least that's better. I was taking
gabapentin.
No, the thing I was taking was the I can't remember what it's called. It's the same medication they give patients that have the shingles.
Oh, God, I forgot what that's called.
Gabapentin.
Yeah, gabapentin. That's the one they use for a lot of the nerve stuff.
Yeah. And I was taking that for my hand pain. So instead of a sharp pain, it became a dull pain. And that was able to get me through to the point where I could finally work a keyboard. So, but I haven't had to take that recently, so I'm kind of happy about that, because it's not that I'm averse to taking it, but if I take it too much and get used to it, then if I really need it, it's not going to be there for me. So
yeah, you do develop a tolerance for it over time, but if it's helpful. Along the lines, going back to the agoraphobia thing, have you looked into virtual reality therapy at all? 'Cause I was actually just doing some research on phobias today. It's pretty fascinating work.
So what have they done with it?
Yeah. So John Hopkins was actually doing some research on it recently. Well, no, it was John Hopkins. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of psychedelics. But there's a whole bunch of work that's been done on it. It's recognizing what you do is basically you get put into a virtual reality setting that triggers your phobia. So one of the best treatments for phobias is basically exposure therapy.
Right.
So what they'll do is they'll put you in VR for being around crowds, right? If that's your thing, you've developed a little bit of agoraphobia. Because you recognize that you're going to get triggered and possibly have a stroke being in a large setting outside of game. And so they put you in an environment and start you off small through using the virtual reality, knowing that you're in a safe place, but it still fools your brain into thinking it's real. It's pretty fascinating. I'm not sure how much it's used, but it's being used, so it might be worth looking into locally.
The one thing that I've done, I don't know if this is a coping mechanism or if it's just, I think it's more of a backup safety feature, but I don't go anywhere by myself anymore.
That sounds safe, actually.
I don't drive anymore. And I usually travel to the store with a friend so that if I start to get bad, I got somebody to take me to a safe spot where I feel okay. Because a lot of times what happens when my agoraphobia causes my vertigo to go into overdrive, the next thing you know, I'm blacking out and I'm passed out on the floor. Or my dad had a bad episode and ended up wrapping his Jeep around a median in the center of the highway at 65 miles an hour. And then he took out a Macy's display the month prior to that from blacking out. And he wasn't agoraphobic. He loved crowds. No, they don't know what caused it with him either. He took all kind of neurology tests and everything. They couldn't pinpoint it.
So, I mean, can I reflect a little bit on what you told me about your personal life? It feels like you guys are kind of go-getters, So, I mean, it would go with things as far as you being, you're pretty awesome in your personal life, and it serves you that you're unique with your illness too,
Yeah.
One of a kind.
I canceled the trip. Ended up doing it through teleconference, but I was supposed to go to California to the Lucas Arts Ranch. to finalize some paperwork, and because I did manage to get my screenplay published. I mean, my screenplay was bought by Steven Spielberg. With the help of my daughter, who helped me during a prior incident I had a couple of months ago. She did the final negotiations for that, so I was really excited about that. But I was going to get a chance to go to the Lucas Ranch and see Industrial Lights and Sound and hang out with Lucas and Spielberg, and I had to call it off because I was just freaking out too much. I didn't feel comfortable leaving the house, and it sucked. And I hate missing out like that, but I ended up having a good teleconference, so it wasn't a total loss.
So I got to experience that VR therapy just briefly, and I don't even have a phobia of heights, really, but it was the one I got to see was you're standing in a cherry picker, like one would have, like you're picking apples up high or something, and it was the trippiest thing. I'd never used VR really before, so maybe that's what it was, but I got in that thing and I'm like, holy crap, I'm not really over I'm kind of over my fear. I know it's not real, but I could feel my body. All of the sensations were cued. It was really trippy.
Yeah, I don't know what's triggered my anxiety. When it comes to my agoraphobia, but you know what? My mother dealt with it, and she still deals with it. And my grandmother passed away, but she dealt with it as well.
I mean, it stands to reason that it's likely because you've got a physical condition and you're aware that it could trigger at any moment. Are you able to drive? I mean, you don't have your license hasn't been revoked or anything given your medical condition?
I can't. Yeah, I can drive. I actually ended up letting my car go and gave it to charity.
Nice.
I was gonna buy a friend of mine's car. April-ish. No, It was like May or June is when I was gonna do it, and I decided not to because the last time I was in a car, I went to the grocery store, which is probably about maybe a 10-minute. It's less than a mile from my house, but it's about a 2-minute drive, and it took me an hour and a half to get home.
Yeah.
I had to pull over. I had to pull over, and I got freaked out, and I couldn't
panic attack.
Get everything to slow down. Yeah, I had a panic attack, and just had to sit in the car until it passed, which was hard because it was like 105 degrees outside.
Ouch.
So I literally pushed my limits to get home on what I was comfortable doing because I just couldn't be hot anymore. It was kind of one of those
They are brutal.
choose your own adventure.
No joke.
And I was like, okay, yeah, I don't need to drive. I don't need to be in that position. I might hurt somebody or hurt myself.
So I haven't mentioned it yet, but have you ever heard of, and I know you've said that they've done scans and all that stuff, there's this thing called pseudo-seizures, and I'm just mentioning this, you've heard of that before? And I'm mentioning it only because when the brain is messed up, it can do some tricky things to the body. You know, so like if you've got an underlying anxiety condition that could in fact be driving the seizure, or not the seizure, see there I go, the strokes, I would wonder if that could be addressed with a therapeutic intervention of some sort.
Oh, I'll have to look into that.
Because you've heard of pseudo-seizures. They're driven largely because the body's, like the brain is overstimulated.
Yeah.
There's a trigger, they don't know what it is. It could be whatever. And they have a symptom where they collapse on the floor, and it looks a little bit like a seizure from the outside, but there's no neurological triggers that show that it's actually a seizure.
See, now, everyone who's ever been around me when I've had one of my incidents have never seen any seizure-like behavior. I would just all of a sudden be talking to them, or I'd get up to go to the bathroom, take 3 steps, and the next thing I fall like a rag doll. I just collapse. My legs go out from under me, and I just crumble. Or I'll fall forward like a tree, you know? But they've never seen any rapid eye movement, any twitches, any facial quirks or anything like that. It's just like they're just like, you're out. And then I would come to, and I'm like, why am I on the floor?
Yeah, that sounds a little bit like a pseudo-seizure, because you don't really see anything other than maybe a second's worth of fluttering, and you feel your body kind of go black, and then boom, you're down. and that can lead to TBIs, obviously, because you're hitting your head on the ground.
Yeah. And I worry about that too.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I don't know, man. It's definitely no joke. So, at some point, you're going to be like, all right, man, you need me to bleed myself with leeches to fix this? You got it. Give me some leeches. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it takes. Old school magic? All right, yep. Sacrifice a chicken?
Light a bonfire and let's kill a chicken.
Right.
Yeah. It's weird. But I do suffer a lot of PTSD from some pretty traumatic stuff in my past, and sometimes I don't get the best sleep on night terrors, and I know some of those have been known to pile on top of, you get a bag of 10 or 15 little things and it turns into one big thing that causes a cascade failure.
Yeah, you're totally right. That's exactly what it is. So
I try to limit as many cascade failures as possible by not worrying about things that I can't focus on.
That's an engineering term, isn't it? Cascade failures?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that in a while. So you address one of the primary areas of focus for most therapists is going to be looking at like how like looking at the system. How are you eating? How are you sleeping? How is your socialization? And you got the socialization at least through some extent by being here in game and chatting with folks. So, and you said your sleeping and whatnot is not the best.
It's not the best and it's not consistent. I have a problem, a lot of times I have a problem falling asleep. I'm not one of those people that just hits the bed and I'm out. So I've started to listen to ebooks while I'm sleeping and kind of have somebody read me to sleep kind of thing.
Yeah. Leonard Nimoy reads the Bible. Or
Oh, yeah. And then, so that has helped. Try listening to relaxing music. A lot of times
I'm pouring tea, don't
I
judge.
used to be a masseuse, so I try to get some nature sounds. Things that just kind of good white noise.
Meow. Say it. Say meow.
But the hardest thing to cope with is a lot of the things that I used to do to cope with my stress and anxiety are not physically an option right now.
Right.
That's tough.
What's home life like? You got supports? People there locally?
I have friends that come to visit a lot. I live by myself now. I'm divorced, but that happened way before any of this went down. But they come over a couple times a week, so I do get good time.
Get any loot from that.
Interaction with my friends, some of which I've known over 25 years, so it's really good, They know me well enough that they're a good safety net for me.
Zombie skin belt, common to uncommon.
I'm comfortable enough with them telling me anything that I need to hear, whether I like it or not. It's like, if you start noticing any weird behavior, please tell me.
Right.
That you're off. You're not acting yourself, or this isn't like you. What's going on?
So
because medication has caused, I've had to stop taking certain medications because they were like, this is not good for you. It's really hard. It's really hard to try new things when you live alone.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know what's working and what's not working. Because you may think it's working fine, and your friend's like, well, you just put bleach on the stove with oatmeal in it, and that's not going to work out for you.
Yeah, that disassociation that you often get into that mode. And not to speak to your neurocapacity when you're having possibly one of your episodes, you don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all right. So the medical professionals weren't able to give you a formal diagnosis, it sounds like, other than saying that you are having stroke-like episodes, or are they full-on calling them strokes?
Minor. No full-on major strokes. Generally, it's something that will cause like the left side of my body to cause numbness or just not work up to normal speed for a period of days or weeks. And sometimes I just have general problems, like I'll have a blackout and fall real hard and hurt my shoulder, hurt my neck, and then it just causes other pain and
I
discomfort
like that.
and other
That's a good
stress
idea.
and anxiety because of different nerves being pinched or messed with or inflamed. So, but yeah, the thing that usually it's easier for me to see something going too far when I'm experiencing something bad. It's harder to pinpoint when I need to take a chill when I'm doing something that I'm enjoying, like playing. Like when you're trying to go through an instance, or you're trying to do a raid with some friends, or you're enjoying the XP and you don't want to quit and you push yourself a little too hard. And this is the first time that I've actually had anything trigger an actual full-blown mini stroke.
Yeah. So when you're having a good time, you're like, I know my body needs rest, but
we're almost there.
Yeah, just one more round.
The dragon just popped, and I won
right.
it.
Yeah, totally. Man.
So that's the hardest part for me, is self-regulating myself when good stuff's having fun is in front of me.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Well. But that goes back to you recognizing that you're about to have an episode. That same kind of like, what's going to be a trigger for me? What's going to be, and I know that this is not necessarily going to be a trigger, but I know that I'm overtaxing my body. And then knowing also that the community that you're playing with is all supportive of your condition, to be able to say, hey man, go take a break, go drink your water, go do some stretching. You know what I mean? We'll wait for you. The dragon can wait. It's going to chill.
Yeah. And my friends are great like that. And everybody on the server, I've never had a person that says, okay, we're never grouping with that guy anymore. You know, as we get to the dragon or demon or whatever, he's going to pass out. You know, everybody's been really helpful. I've actually been in games where that kind of behavior would happen more likely than not. But we have such a great community on this game. I can't thank everyone that plays Shroud enough, including the devs. I was a dev in my real life, and it's really cool to be able to talk shop.
Yeah.
With the devs in this game, and kind of, you know, they'll bend my ear, I'll bend their ears, and some of them are colleagues that I worked on projects with, or we at least worked on the same design teams years ago. So
that goes back to what you said earlier about like the you feel like you can talk to these people because they recognize you, they know you, they've been through your experience. That's why you feel more comfortable talking to me than you do a therapist.
Yeah.
And these devs are the same, and I've had that experience with devs too. Is like I can't remember all the names, but one of them came and like gave me a merchant when I was saying, hey, where do I get a merchant from? How do I do this? What do I do? And they're like, here, take this. Just make sure you pay it forward to the noobs. Like, fantastic. I'm all about it. Yeah.
And it's so helpful. And I feel good about myself when I'm able to help other people too. A lot of times I will go at least once a week to the newbie zone and just scout for newbies and, you know, help them through a couple things, or answer their questions, or deal with whatever their issues are. And if I can help them, I do. And you see my place. A lot of times I'll help them out with gear or money or a little bit of starter stuff to kind of get them going. You know, this isn't the best suit of armor, but this will get you by until, you know, you get to that point and figure out what you want to be. And it does help because it makes you feel good inside. And, you know, I'm not just doing it for that reason. I like generally being a good person, but it's nice when you can be generous, even if it is with, you know, gold pieces and a couple of kodos or whatever.
Right. One of the things that's often the most helpful for when you're in a depressive funk, or you're stuck in kind of I'm going to call it a disability, when you're stuck being disabled at home because your mental health isn't where you want it to be, or your physical condition isn't where you want it to be, is volunteering and getting outside of yourself and finding a cause and something that you can belong to. And I think this game fulfills that purpose to a point.
It does.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's large events going on that I planned on going, and last minute I'll be just like, I don't want to go, because I'm either on the verge of not feeling good, or I'm not prepared for
the social engagement of being in a large group. Yeah. Let's buff up.
Getting better with that, so. But
it's
still a thing sometimes.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Well, I mean, it sounds like you're doing great things, and if you're giving your body the time it needs to recover from your stroke, and like I said through the messages earlier, very much just giving yourself the grace to accept that your body needs time to recover, and don't push yourself to the point where you're going to be, it's detrimental.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say the takeaway would be, follow through with maybe, it doesn't sound like financial stuff is a difficulty for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so, I mean, there are options. Some of those, as far as like the virtual reality therapy and stuff goes, some of that can be cost prohibitive is the expression. Just because a lot of the clinicians might be more utilizing, they're doing they're not accepting insurance because they know it's a hot topic. You know what I mean?
Right.
But there's a lot of anxiety and depression clinicians out there that would be willing to work. It's just finding one that specifically works with that. Or another option that just came to me, and you kind of already mentioned it when you're talking about, like, you poured the bleach in the oatmeal and you're making oatmeal with bleach. You're in a state of, like, a fugue state. You're in not a depressive. You're in a dissociative state. You're kind of self-hypnotized because you're into that mode, right? So hypnosis is also something that's really, really helpful, and that's also a great way to cope with things in the moment. So if you can teach yourself to self-hypnotize when you know that you're going to be having a triggering event, there's a whole bunch. Hypnosis isn't like you see in the movies. It's very much like something different. So it's not typical talk therapy, like, hey, we're having a great time talking and probably getting some good information out, but it's not the same thing because it's just a different type of thing,
Yeah.
But I'm glad you've got so much support in game. That's super great to have that. And I think, I mean, what would be your goal if you were to go to see a therapist? What would you want to come from that?
I don't know, and I think that's part of my problem is that I would like to find better coping mechanisms. I think I think would be one of the things. I mean, I'm open to reading books and whatever I need to find something, a new technique or something, but yeah, just a good breathing technique, something that I can do to cut the length of episodes or reduce or avoid them altogether, just through, like, breath exercises or something. If there's a good technique to try, I'm all game.
So tell me about what breathing techniques you've used, because you said you used to do, was it Shaolin?
I would do some of my meditations. Sometimes I would do Chi Lu, or I can't do Tai Chi anymore because of my balance issues. Basically, you take, and Chi Lu's frustrating for me too, because you take a candle and you use your chi with the palms of your hands to manipulate the flame. And have you ever heard of Chi Lu?
I have not. No.
In layman's terms, it's the burning hands. It's like you can change the temperature of the palms of your hands over 10 degrees. And
it sounds familiar.
My master used to be able to make towels smoke.
Wow.
like steam, and we actually put him under thermal imaging when he went through one of his meditations, and it was not. It was he was manifesting real heat from his hands.
So I just put some links into chat, into the stream chat, and talking about like there's a triangle breathing. Have you heard of that one before?
No.
So just click on the links. They're interesting, but triangle breathing is essentially you're breathing. I don't remember the exact, but you breathe in for 3, you exhale for 3, you inhale, hold it, or you breathe in for 3, hold it for 3, exhale for 3, or something like that. There's a specific number that you strive for. So this thing is you keep your breathing regulated, and the object is not so much the amount that you're counting for. So if you inhale to 5, hold it, exhale to 5, hold it, inhale to 5, hold it, and you think of you make a triangle. It's the fact that you're becoming mindful with your breathing and you're pausing, and that just the sheer act of doing it. And if you do that for like 10 repetitions, I guarantee you'll feel a complete difference, because you're oxygenating your blood. There's a neurological effect, and then poof, you feel better.
Oh, good. Okay. I will definitely try that.
But there's lots of different breathing techniques. That's just the one that I remembered when you were talking about it, because it's such an easy one to do.
Yeah, the scary thing that I guess it started happening about a year ago is I would start to see black spots in my left eye, but they would move as my eyeball would move. So
yeah.
it's like I don't know if I'm having
Hey Sheldon, I didn't know you were weren't a follower already. Thanks
blood
for that.
vessels damaging in the back of my eyeball or what, but I would sometimes have spots on my eye for days.
It could be any number of things, but yeah. Did you go to an ophthalmologist for that to see what it was?
Not yet, and I should do that. And I've been procrastinating that, and that's
so you gotta be careful. So often what happens with anxiety disorders, well, I would say, let's not even call it a disorder, with anxiety symptoms, right, is that we start to perseverate on certain things, and then next thing you know, one symptom turns into another symptom, and you start to kind of roll into a big ball about, oh my God, it's shit all over. You have to kind of, like, what's realistic and what's not, and have to have, like, a grounding mechanism of some sort. And sometimes that's what the breathing can serve to do.
Okay.
Use my meticulous tools here. Yeah. There, I put them in it. Damn it, I didn't bring them with me. But I'm just saying, like, I could recognize that could in fact be a thing, but knowing that I have black dots doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to go blind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It could just be that I've got something in my eyes.
Yeah. I do worry about losing more things because, like I said, the game is a good coping mechanism for me, and if I were to lose my sight, I don't know.
I was saying, oh my gosh, because you have every right, given, everything that you told me so far. Like, one physical ailment after another, it's pretty ridiculous. Oh, thanks, Bubs.
Yeah. Try not to focus on the what ifs, because you can go nuts.
Yeah, it's not about the what ifs, it's the what. Well, that's a good reframe. It's not about the what ifs, it's about that I can do these things, or I get the ability to do these things. Like, maybe I can't do what you're doing, but I can do these things. You know? Yeah. And fortunately, we live in an age of technology where there's so much amazing stuff. Like, you weren't able to type for a long period of time, but Dragon Dictation came out, and there's all these voice to text programs that are amazing. You know, medical transcriptioners use them all the time. But so, if you wanted to write again,
I tried to write my novel using that, but I also found out that it's I guess it's like an artist trying a different medium. That sometimes you just can't connect with your subject using certain mediums. Like, I know people that are great oil painters and they just get near pastels. I get near anything pencil sketches and they just start to clam up.
So you were saying your creative side starts to clam up right away when you start to draw?
Yeah. No, it's when I write. Everything I write, I seem to like throw it away. I'll
Yeah.
do 70 pages and just toss them because they're just not up to my normal standards. And I don't know if that's just because my standards are too high, or if I'm just over questioning my work. And I mean, some of my friends have read it and they're like, they're like, this is good, but it's honestly, it's not what I would expect from you. Not that they were trying to like make me feel bad about my work or anything, but
Right.
I've got some really close friends that are writers,
Marty, go get him, man.
and they're
Stop being a
like,
slacker.
if this was the direction you were going with it, then I'm okay with that. But if you're trying to get me to gauge, based on my previous work, what is this? And I appreciate that. I mean, because I've had some people that will just tell me everything I do is great, and I'm like, no, I need an honest assessment, because this is like, is I have my doubts about this, and I don't want to cloud them by pointing out what I think is wrong with it. And then but I said I really need a fresh set of eyes, and sure enough, the same things that I was not happy with about it, they were like, well, didn't really see where this fits with that, and the cohesiveness wasn't there. It was like using the Dragon software. I guess I type with my fingers and not my eyes. Some people can do dictation. Some people, can't. I guess it's the same with some people that can't carry on a sentence unless they make hand gestures.
That's
if
like
you tie their hands behind
I
their
talk
back,
with
they
my hands.
can't communicate.
I don't know if you're still watching stream, but I'm talking with my hands a little bit.
So the Dragon software actually frustrated me more than it opened up any
Yeah, Justin, what's up?
door for me.
Give me a
So
second.
it's not that I've given up on it. Like, I tried it, I don't like it.
Right.
Just for right now, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, man, that's cool. So I'm there's the problem solving side of me that says, hey, let's fix it. But there's also the side of me that's like, you're the expert, dude. I mean, you've been doing this and living with this condition for a long period of time, and it's not fair of me to say, one way or another.
And honestly, a lot of it isn't even just like, well, I don't think it's any good. Do you think it's any good? I used to be a ghostwriter also. And so a lot of times I would have somebody, they would write some small story, like, tell me a story of what happened that you had fun with last month. And that kind of gives me a flow idea of how their mind works.
Yeah.
So when I write a book for them, it's almost like they're writing the book, and they're like, I can't believe you sound like I do on paper.
Yeah, it works. Justin on stream has a question. Go ahead, Justin.
Yes.
Cool. So the question is, if you're taking meds for depression, they tell you that you won't have to take them or won't have to be on them forever. How do you know when enough is enough? I think the answer to that one is it depends on you. So it depends on what you're taking the antidepressants for. So, I mean, if you've got like bipolar disorder, oftentimes the antidepressants can be prescribed because they're a necessity in order to make sure that you stay regulated enough so you don't end up having, an episode where you're manic too much and you end up doing stuff and go off of your medications entirely. If you're having a depressive episode you've got like major depressive disorder, and you're full on diagnosed with that, and you've got the medicine in place, oftentimes the antidepressants are prescribed as a method to kind of segue into a more clear life. So you, let me see, I'm going to prescribe, you're going to come into my office and we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to prescribe Wellbutrin, for instance. I prescribe you Wellbutrin under the auspice that it's going to allow you to take that antidepressant for when you start taking it, once it gets up to its therapeutic level, it will allow you to let the stresses of life roll off your back. Right? Because I mean, I always envision antidepressants as it's not going to be a fix-it pill. It's going to be something that allows you to say, when the stresses come on, all of a sudden I'm going to say, not such a big deal. I can manage this. It's okay, right? If you don't have those antidepressants on board, one of the reasons why you might have come on to see a therapist to begin with or a psychiatrist to begin with, then those real-life stress events might have hit you, crippled you, and that wave of depression come on top of you and not really been able to get out very well. So sometimes what happens is those antidepressants are put on board. You've got your it's come up to your therapeutic level. 6 months go by, and you've made lifestyle changes to go along with it. So the typical stuff like you're eating right, you're sleeping right, you're exercising more, whatever, right? So with the Wellbutrin dose, you start off at, I don't remember, 150 milligrams is the lowest dose, I believe, and then you bump up to 300. Maybe I bumped you up to 300 milligrams for Wellbutrin, and then after 6 months, we're like, hey, you know what? You seem to be doing really well. You've changed your life around. You can downscale. We'll start taking you back off the Wellbutrin if you've made all these positive life choices. If you haven't, and you don't want to do that, or you haven't, the antidepressants haven't allowed you to do that yet, or you're just not at that point of change in your treatment, then they just continue on with the antidepressants. So the question was, how do you know when enough is enough? I think it's relative to the person. It depends on the diagnosis, the severity of the diagnosis, but also yeah, that's pretty much it. Does that answer your question, Justin? All right, welcome back. I'm assuming you're back. I heard stuff moving around. That was a long-winded response. I'm sorry. I hate fighting ghosts, so I over-prepare. They're annoying. Go get him, Marty. Beat him up. Claw him with your bear claws. I want a donut. Bear claw donuts. One of my favorites. Bear claws. I'm thinking apple fritters. Actually, apple fritters are my favorite. I love them. All right. Oops. I wonder if he can't kill my bear. Justin, did you hear my response? Go ahead, ask. Ask away. I mean, that was kind of a long-winded response. But yeah, ask away. Let me know. I'm having fun today, by the way. I rarely get to do this, like talk mental health stuff on stream. So I kind of get to geek out, and it's fun. Most of the time, it's just me playing games, which is cool. But I do like to actually talk about. I mean, that was what the stream intent was actually for. So, if folks want to talk about stuff, if they got things like specific questions for it, then please talk. Let's do it. Let's do this. What is that Shia LaBeouf meme from years ago? Just do it, man. Just do it. LaBeouf. I think my bear bugged out. Oh, what was that? Oh, that was damage. So what were you saying, Pubs? Ados has a script running that collects the questions from every chat. He wrote it himself. So are you talking about like for the Portalarium streams? And he collects all the questions and then takes it back to the dev team? That'd be kind of fun. There's my bar. What up, bar? Don't fall. Can your pet fall through those gaps? Okay. Do you mind if I read it on stream? All right. I guess since I'm you're saying that your message is okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, you probably can't see it. Okay. Yep. And I don't remember what the dosages are on that medicine, but it would be the same. So I mean, unless you do have a diagnosis of, you know, bipolar disorder or something, it would be much the same as far as like your treatment plan. So I mean, that would be something to discuss with your psychiatrist if you wanted to change things up and make it so, you know, like, hey, I don't like the way that this makes my body feel. Maybe I'm gaining weight, or my sex drive. 2 common occurrences with antidepressants. Or my sex drive is, you know, down. I would like to change things up. Maybe let's change the medication, or let's change the dosage. That should be a conversation you can have with your primary care provider or your psychiatrist, depending on who prescribed. That's a super common thing too. Nobody wants to stay on these medicines. So personally, I have gout, if you all know what gout is. And one of the things for gout is I had to take this medicine. What the hell is... Oh, it's a trebuchet, or a catapult over there. Yeah, I have to take this pill for the rest of my life. And the thing is that the medicine, it is one of these pills that will affect your kidney function for the rest of your life. And so my thought is like, why the hell do I want to take this thing? I don't want to take this thing. And so I stopped taking it. It's not the same as an antidepressant because it's not life-threatening, but I stopped taking the medicine and I've been fine. I do have occasional flare-ups, but point being, medicines have, everything you put into your body has a positive and negative effect, right? So I'm going to go smoke a joint and I'm going to feel great, but I might have some kind of leftover effects tomorrow, like I might feel a little bit groggy or, you know, a little bit slower than normal. But in the moment, it might help with my anxiety. It might help with my depressive symptoms. I don't know. Tricky. It's a tough line to walk. So yeah, it's a conversation to have with your GP. And so I'll often tell families too that you know, general practitioners are great for many things, but they're not psychiatrists. They've all done psychiatric rounds. If they're an MD, I'm not sure if DOs have to do psychiatric rounds, but I imagine so because they need to have their medical license. Anywho, point being that just because they have a psychiatric round does not make them a psychiatrist. So it sometimes is in your best interest to get your psychiatric information from a psychiatrist if that's an option in your area. I know sometimes when you're in the more rural communities, it's hard to find a psychiatrist just because there's just not enough. It doesn't pay as well as a medical doctor. So rheumatoid arthritis, I have to take a dozen pills a week for that. So I would like to get rid of anything that I actually need. Hell yeah, I'm with you. Hell yeah. Well, it all fix your liver and your kidneys, right? I mean, your body is processing all that stuff all the time, so it's not good for you. Yeah, I saw another streamer doing this, Rogue, and so I figured I'd do this too, just to see how it worked. So I can play games and talk, and people can watch me game and talk at the same time. Feels like it's working well, I think. Yeah, that's I 100% support that, Justin. 100%. Get off whatever you can, as long as it's safe to do so. So I mean, like I said, the big one for me is like if you have a depression diagnosis or you've got bipolar disorder, I would be reluctant to say go off of your medications, just because I worry that you know, when you do have a bipolar disorder, it's just so hard to get stable again if you find a good combo. If it's just straight up depression, not to speak down towards depression because it is severe, it can be severe, but it is something that you can, you know, if you go off of your therapeutic dose for a period of time, you notice that you're off your therapeutic dose and you're able to get back on it. These aren't responding very fast. So, yeah. You can't drink alcohol anymore because of the medicines you're taking? Because it's affecting your kidneys and your liver so much? It's already almost 11 o'clock. Holy moly. Time's a-flying, folks. Time's a-flying. Life and work and everything got all over me, and I was bursting into tears and couldn't stop doing it. Things are much better now 6 months later. Well, I picked the right arbitrary time frame, didn't I? Nice. Yeah. So I would expect if a psychiatrist or even a general practitioner were to say, because they probably make you take that, what is it, SDQ9 form when you go in for your appointment, like, have you over the last 30 days experienced periods of lack of hope, or you know that form you have to fill out where it's like a survey from 1 to 5, with 1 being the best, 5 being the worst, and you have to rate yourself, and there's like, I think 15 questions or something. All right, so if they'll make you take that every time you go in for your re-up on your prescription, or anytime you go in for an appointment, that'd be a good opportunity just to discuss it. Like, hey, you know what, over the past 30 days I've been doing great. I've been exercising more, I've been drinking a lot less, because obviously I can't. Hey, welcome back.
Hey, thank you.
But yeah, discuss it with them and see. If you've been making those positive changes, sometimes you can take the antidepressants out. Yeah, and if you've been taking the medicine for 6 months or so, it's obviously at the... Yeah, I got you. I can hear you fine.
Great. Okay, good.
I've just been talking to Justin on stream.
Well, that's great. It is really helpful to have someone to talk to.
Sure, man.
I really appreciate you taking the time out.
Yeah, I was geeking out when you went away. I'm like, I never get to do this on stream, so this is what that's what it's for. So it's nice to have somebody actually come on and want to discuss something serious. So
that's awesome.
But the caveat should be that this is not a replacement for a normal therapist, and I am not your therapist. I am somebody who's listening and providing support. Because there's too much legality that's involved in actually providing therapy, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Right.
Oh yeah. So Justin and a few other folks are putting on a Saturday support group for people for mental health stuff. Yeah, and so it's a great movement. And Justin, what's the time frame on that again? Can you tell me? I know there was a thread. Let me see. There was a thread. Where did I put it? There it is. Rising and Preaching Up.
Okay, so that's 4 p.m. Central on Saturday.
Yep, 4 p.m. Central.
I will be there.
Oh, and so I should also say that if you want to find other mental health practitioners on Twitch, there are quite a few that are also, that play video games as well. So I came into this streaming thing. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Cool. I came into the streaming thing thinking, hey, this is a novel idea. Nobody does this thing. And I found several other streamers that are doing the same thing. So if you're interested, I can post their names up in chat if you want more people just to talk to and listen to about stuff. More folks can be a good thing if you want to do that.
That's really cool.
I obviously want all the traffic, though, you know.
Absolutely.
So you had asked me what games do I play, or have I played in the past?
Yeah, what games have you played in the past?
Oh my gosh. So I've been gaming for ever, you know, since I was probably like in 4th grade, and I'm 41, so it's been quite a time.
Okay.
But MMO games specifically, because that's kind of one of my passions, I guess, because of the community aspect. That's why I played these games. My first one was Ultima Online, so there's always the love affair with your first, right? Popped my MMO cherry, so to speak. I know it's very late to say, but that game was my first, and then I went to Star Wars Galaxies, World of Warcraft, and then I bounced around to all kinds of MMOs in between, just trying to find that same fix.
Okay. That is cool. Yeah.
How about you? You said you were a dev on Galaxies, so, or not Galaxies, but Old Republic. Getting shanked.
Well, I did some tail end work with Star Wars Galaxies. But
Bear?
Yeah, I've even done some work on platform games, building some of the storyline architecture.
Thanks, Justin. Oh, he gets hit by the traps too. How cool is that?
And I wouldn't say I would never do it again, but I think that chapter of my life is nice and fulfilled, so I'm not feeling the pressing need to do it anymore.
Everyone is welcome. Yeah, I hear you there.
And I did learn that I enjoy playing my games a lot more when I'm not
the dev.
Not the dev.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of, like, if I were to be a full-time streamer, I probably wouldn't get as much enjoyment out of it because it's, my income. Like,
Yeah.
no, man.
I mean, there is some joy to, if you get paid to do what you love, that's important. And that should be a big thing.
Totally true.
But sometimes if you get paid to do what you love, you sometimes accidentally stop loving what you do.
Yep. I was watching this other streamer, I think it was probably 30 minutes before I started my stream tonight, and his stream focuses on neuroscience.
I'm sorry, focuses on what?
Neuroscience. So, like, the science of the brain, yeah. And so he was going off about, like, I feel like I'm not getting any support for my neuroscience streams. I'll have, like, I don't know how many, he's been streaming for like 2 years, and he has a pretty good focus on neuroscience and stuff, and he's developed a fair base of people. But he said, lately it just feels like I've been getting more participation from my game streams when I'm just streaming a game than I've been getting from when I go through all the trouble of, like, getting a volunteer person to come and do an interview with me, and he said, I'm just not going to do it anymore. The numbers aren't reflective that it's actually indicated it's any good, so I'm just going to stop. Like, shit. But, I mean, like, he has to rework his entire purpose of his stream and stuff. And so that the reason I'm saying that is, like, talking about something that you love, doing what you love. If you're not doing what you love, don't do it, especially when this is a hobby. Why would you torture yourself? So yeah, what was your favorite of all your MMOs or your games that you've played?
My favorite to play, I think I spent the most time spent a predominant amount of time in Star Wars Galaxies, but I think my first level will always be EQ.
Oh yeah. See, that came out just about the time I got kicked into Ultima. No, it was a little after Ultima, but I was in Ultima and I'm like, I don't like the graphics. I don't want to do that thing. But then, yeah, it sure looked pretty cool after a while. My bear is not following me. These pets are buggy as hell.
One of the other things that I did
He's just sitting over there on his butt.
Was I also worked a lot with game economy and architecture.
Yeah.
And that's a really game economy is a very fascinating thing because
Still attenuated after all that.
Yeah, it's not like real life. You can, in real life, if you don't like the economy, there's really not much you can do about it. But people who don't like their game economy will vote with their pocketbook and they'll stop playing.
Yeah.
So you got to pay a little bit of attention because they do have a choice. If they don't like the social or political architecture of a game, then they'll stop playing it.
Did you play EVE Online at all?
I tried to, and I don't know if it was because I jumped in too late in the game, and I just couldn't get a chance to really give it the good try that I wanted to.
Such an amazing game. Spreadsheets in space, Have you heard that expression, spreadsheets in space?
Yes.
But the sheer coordination that it takes to manage, like, a large-scale PvP battle when, there's like 500 players and you're all coordinating targets and there's one shot caller, it's just like, it's amazing. Talk about corporate organization and being able to build. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
I think my bear's going to take him out.
And every game, what fascinates me the most in games is mathematics. I love math. That was the kind of stupid little
your engineering stuff.
I would do math problems for fun. So figuring out how the game mechanics and the AI works is so interesting and fascinating for me. And actually, I've had a lot of fun discussions with economics with Chris Beers. years. You know, him and I both have a background in game economics.
Yeah.
And the trickiest part about a lot of games, which luckily this game does not have to worry about, is corporate influence. And there's so many times where those great ideas or changes don't get implemented, or at least timely enough for it to matter, because you'll have people that have nothing to do with the gaming industry telling you you need to do this, 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 and this. And what sounds good for this quarter may be horrible.
Follow me, bear. Follow me.
For the overall longevity of the game.
Follow. Are you following like a good bear?
Always a
good boo boo.
It's always a touchy thing.
Yeah. Well, it's the I know nothing about your business, so why the hell am I going to come in and advise your business? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It's like I don't tell a plumber how to put in a pipe.
That's right. This song kind of sucks, huh?
It's like I know that what's going on in the game for a lot of people right now is actually a stressful event for some people because there's a big seed change coming down the pike.
A big scene change? What's the big change?
Like a big seed change because they're going for modification of the economic model with a lot of the heritage items and some of the their decisions to not do the telethons and the what was the word I'm trying to speak? The stretch goals, because they're trying to get away from the Kickstarter part of the game.
Are horrible. Look at that.
Back
like
to
running
the
it
game.
back.
Established game economy nature of the game.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it's gonna be a big change, and not everybody handles change well.
That's are you speaking for yourself?
Yep, and other people. Now, I mean, I know that change is inevitable, especially in video games, because it's when change happens, it a lot of times happens very rapidly.
Failed a mining node. Come on now. Did you hear my new Kodo sound effect earlier when I put it out? So how many viewers do we have right now? Let's see. We have 7 viewers. All right, let's see. I'm going to do, just so I can test this, I'm going to do a Kodo giveaway. So just so I can test it, I'm going to do a Kodo giveaway. Because I want people to hear this cool thing that I have. Giveaways, where are we at? Why am I totally blanking here? Oh, there we are, giveaways. Okay. So we'll complete that one. All right, so we'll do a Kodo giveaway.